start with today, mass shooting in Minneapolis. We have 2 children dead. We have a whole bunch of people still injured, some of them fighting for their life. But we have confirmed an 8 and a 10-year-old were killed in the school shootings just earlier today. Now, I heard about this morning. I was listening to a fantastic radio station. Maybe you've heard of it, WBAP. And of course, we had the news immediately when it happened. And so I heard an interesting sound clip from the police chief, O'Hara, that I wanted to grab for you. And then a weird thing happened on the way to the YouTube. I typed in O'Hara, Minneapolis shooting, hit enter, sorted it by date, hey, in the last 24 hours. And would you believe that Minneapolis had another mass shooting just yesterday? So that kind of blew my mind. I looked at it and it was like, this was uploaded 14 hours ago. I'm like, 14 hours ago? I thought this just happened just now. I thought it happened this morning. So I listened to the audio. Nope, completely separate shooting. And man, that's so weird because we have, 2 people dead. Any life lost is a tragedy. But, we had 2 people murdered in Dallas recently. Did it get national attention? They had a mass shooting in Minneapolis yesterday where 1 person died and 6 others were wounded, I think it was. Anyway, here's O'Hara just from yesterday.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara is providing an update right now, and he's addressing
Earlier this afternoon, our city experienced a deeply troubling act of violence. In the middle of the day, a gunman armed with a high-velocity .223 rifle opened fire on a group of people on the sidewalk on the block behind me, directly across the street from a Catholic high school. That gunman wound up killing 1 person and wounding 6 others that were standing on the sidewalk. This level of firepower unleashed in broad daylight is completely sickening and unacceptable.
So they had a mass shooting, and this was next to a Catholic high school, at a Catholic school 2 days in a row? But the one yesterday didn't really make the news. So why is that? The easy answer, and it's probably more than 50% correct, is that, the media doesn't highlight it. But the media isn't the sole gatekeeper into what you and I talk about anymore. There's not a bottleneck of information that has to go through 4 networks or a handful of radio networks as well. A couple of newspapers in town, that's it? No. You and I don't pass around these stories. You and I don't talk about these on Facebook and social media. And one of the things we're learning, myself, especially as a broadcaster who studies you like a hawk, is one of the reasons the media doesn't chime in on these stories as much is because it's not good for ratings. We don't care about it. I want to say you don't care about it, but I'm just as guilty. I already know more about this shooting than I do about the one that happened yesterday. So I'm just as guilty as you. But, when we start asking the question, why do we care about some shootings more than others? Why do we care about when 2 people died in this instance, but not when 2 people died in our own backyard this week? There was a shooting that I was preparing for you before this even happened, that happened in Dallas. Another 16-year-old committed a murder. That's 3 16-year-olds, well, 2 16-year-olds and a 15-year-old who have committed murder in the last month. Well, they haven't gone through their full trial, allegedly committed murder, thank you very much, in the last month. Never makes national news. However, this one does. Now, I can tell you why me personally am more interested in this in a way that the media isn't. Is because this isn't being portrayed correctly. This was a deliberate attack on Christian children. The Christianity was not just a happenstance detail here. It was part of the allure for the psychopathic murderer. It was driven, in part at least, by an antipathy toward Christians, dare I say, a bigotry. So this is a hate crime. This is a hate crime in which a person who is clearly under the umbrella of Team Blue goes and murders the children of people who are clearly under the umbrella of Team Red. Now, if we actually look at this from the correct angle, and I don't expect MSNBC to do it, I don't expect CNN to do it, I don't expect any TV stations anywhere to do it. But this is what a handful of talk radio show hosts will do. We'll have the real conversation. There's going to be a bunch of guys that float through your social media feed that'll want to have the real conversation. But I wish they would, because we're always told we need to have a national conversation about guns. We need to have a national conversation about racism. We need to have a national conversation about, I don't know, the gender pay gap or all things. No, we need to have an honest conversation about anti-Christian murder sprees. A lot of people are already making the connection here. Well, if this guy was trans, that fits the pattern of what happened at the Nashville Catholic school when a trans person went and shot that one up. Yes, don't forget about the trans person that went and shot up the Joel Osteen church, even though they didn't get to kill anybody. There was the attempt there. How many churches have to be shot up by anti-Christian bigots before we have to have this conversation? We going to have a rally about that? You going to have it? Because I've seen rallies here almost every other weekend down here by my work in downtown Dallas. They'll come out one week and they'll fly the Ukrainian flag. And they'll come out another week and they'll fly the Mexican flag. And they'll come out and fly the Iranian flag. They'll just fly the rainbow flag. All these other causes. Except for when Christians are repeatedly targeted and murdered in your own backyard. Any concern about that injustice? No, those lives don't matter. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More. You're going to hear from this guy. I found a YouTube video. You'll hear a clip of it next that kind of buttresses the point that he was motivated, at least in part, by anti-Christian bigotry. You'll hear it with your own ears on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Football fans, it starts this weekend. Then the pros start next week. Get Prize Picks, add a little bit more spice to the football you're already loving. And right now, before the season starts, there's some picks you can make. Like for the whole season, will Patrick Mahomes pass for more or less than 4,025 yards? More or less, that's it. And at the end of the season, maybe you can pay that off. If you want to start off the season on easy mode, there is a max discount square on one of Dak Prescott's statistics. It's a promo they're running. Of course, they don't really think he's only going to pass for 0.5 yards. But if you download the Prize Picks app and you start your first lineup and you add Dak Prescott, you can pick more on 0.5 yards in that first game against Philly. If he passes for 1 or more yards, boom, you get the square. So you make a lineup of 2 to 6 people like that. Just pick more or less on some statistic. Turn a little bit of money into a lot of money. Up to 2,000 times your money with America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And if you download the Prize Picks app today, use promo code WBAP, you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So that's code WBAP, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Terrible story. To start the day, Minneapolis had a mass shooting at a Catholic school. 2 students, 2 children dead, 17 injured. Most of those students as well. And this is going to be an ugly discussion we have afterwards. One side is going to say it's the guns. The other side is going to say it's the trans. I'm going to say this is anti-Christian. Let's not focus on the tool that the crazy person used, and let's not use the crazy person to bludgeon all people who shares dysphoria. Let's look at, because it's not just that community that is anti-Christian. It's not just that community that is running around slandering us and making allusions to The Handmaid's Tale and all kinds of other disgusting stereotypes that really inflame some people. And if you're a psychopath and you're someone who enjoys causing pain and suffering of other people, you're just pointing them in the direction of Christians with all this, and most of it's not even true. So let's go ahead and look at what we know about the guy. I know it's quick. I know we hadn't had a whole lot of time. It just happened at 8:30 this morning. But the internet was all over it. Whenever the first press conference happened and Brian O'Hara, the Minneapolis police chief, didn't give us a description of the suspect, then immediately my entire timeline was Coulter's Law. Coulter's Law is based on a Ann Coulter theory that the longer it takes for the police and authorities to identify, or the media to identify, the demographics of the shooter, the less likely it is to be a white male. Well, fit here. It's white trans, so they weren't forthcoming with the description on the guy, so everyone got suspicious. Once there was a name, within minutes, the internet ninjas, the sleuths out there, they had all kinds of information about this guy, including, man, like if you go to DallasExpress.com, they have a copy of the alleged document where he changed his name in when he was 17. He changed it as a minor in 2020, which means his mom had to sign off on it. We found an 11-minute video posted by the psycho killer that was just posted yesterday. Well, this one says it was posted 2 hours ago, so I guess that would mean early this morning. It just looks like it's nighttime because it's dark in there. And so he shows you the guns, and I assume this is the guns he was going to use, and he was saying tomorrow's going to be a big day. And he sounded like a crazy, just a psycho. I'm going to play you one little clip from this. I do not like giving this guy any airtime. I'm going to give him as little as possible. But I think it's important that you hear this with your own ears, because this is what has me shook. He's doing this little laughy thing like he's the Joker. He makes a reference here that he's the woker, like the Joker, but woke. And he's trans. He's got rainbow stickers, and he's got all these guns, and they have messages written on them, which is weird because I've never written anything on any of my guns. But that's what the shooter at the Joel Osteen Church did here in Texas last year. Remember that? Free Palestine and a few other things. Well, he had written a bunch of stuff on some of the clips, the magazines, for you gun nuts that are going to call in and correct me. Doesn't matter. And one of them said, kill Trump. There's a reference to Anders Breivik. That was the guy who did the attack in Norway a few years ago, where he blew up the bomb and then he went to a camp and shot up a bunch of kids there. Killed like 60 people. There was a reference to Waco. There was a reference to Vicky Weaver. She was written on one of the guns, which is a reference to the Ruby Ridge incident. Terrible understatement of what that was. They looked up, and there's reports that his mom may have recently retired from working at the Catholic school attached to the church. So here's the part I want you to hear. Where's your God now? This should shake you to the core just a little bit.
I'm the Woker, baby. Why so curious? Where's your God now?
All right. We have a problem with anti-Christian bigotry. I'm not saying it's widespread. I'm not saying half the country hates Christians or wants to murder Christians. I'm not even saying it's 10% or 5%. But it's enough that it keeps happening over and over. If there were this many attacks on a preferred demographic for the narrative followers of Team Blue in the media, don't you think we'd be having a national conversation about that right now? We had to have a national conversation and riots for 6 months because George Floyd died, because one guy died. It was perceived to be unjust. It was perceived to be because of race. It was perceived. Did Derek Chauvin say one racial slur? Did anyone make any reference to race during that entire George Floyd process? No. But that was racist enough that we got 6 months of protest out of that. They had to go burn down buildings every weekend like it was a hobby, like it was pickleball. When are we going to have a conversation about this? Because you were told a year ago, not even a year ago, when Donald Trump won, that something was just magically transforming in this place. This place was going to be no longer safe for women, for LGBT, for trans, for Muslims, for immigrants, for all kinds of things. Now that we fast forwarded and we are, 9-10 months after the election into this experiment, what has been your observation? Has there been Christians shooting at trans events, or has there been trans shooting at Christian events? Has there been Christians shooting at any of these other demographics? Do they go to black events and shoot them up? Is anyone in a red hat, in a MAGA hat, done a shooting yet? Anyone done an actual Jussie Smollett and not just a hoax? Because remember, you were told that MAGA is full of hate. You were told that MAGA is dangerous. You were told that the greatest threat, terror threat, is domestic violence, probably from right-wingers. But what's the real world told you since then? Where has all the violence been going? One direction. And it ain't coming from Christians. And it ain't coming from MAGA. We're just sitting here getting shot up. Then I got to turn on the TV, and we're still going to get slandered tomorrow. We're still going to be slandered and have everyone be told that we're Nazis, and you're hateful, and you're a bigot, and you're a racist, and you're someone who needs to be fought against. You're destroying this country. You're destroying democracy. You don't care about the suffering of brown people or immigrants or women or people of different orientations. They're still not stopping these lies about you're getting shot up and you're getting murdered on a regular basis because of these slanders, and you're still not standing up and making them stop. Stand up. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More on the Minneapolis mass shooting next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, congratulations, Taylor Swift. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. Top story of the day, terrible story out of Minneapolis. An 8-year-old, 10-year-old killed in a Catholic school shooting, 17 others injured, 14 of them are kids. We still have 2 kids in critical condition. And the shooter took his own life as soon as good guys with guns showed up. In the meantime, if you go try and Google information about this or look it up, I went to CNN just now and their top story on this doesn't have the word trans in it. Went to MSNBC.com. Their top story on this doesn't have the word trans in it. So the cover up is on. And they're also covering up the anti-Christian motivations of this guy. And there's a reason he chose this target. And part of it was driven by antipathy toward Christians. And on one side, you're saying, hey, look, there's a Catholic school shooting. But if you go, like, say, school shootings, or even, actually, I typed in church shootings, and you know what popped up? The first thing that popped up was the story from this AP article that's like, man, we sure do have a problem with people hating on schools. No, not just hating on schools. Well, this is another one in a long line of school shootings. No. This is an anti-Christian shooting. You can either look at the target or you can look at the person who pulled the trigger and notice a pattern there. It's not just the school. This doesn't match the pattern of the shooting that happened in Wilmer Hutchins School. What was that, earlier this year? Or I guess you could say, or last year. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're dealing with. This wasn't gang violence that spilled over into the hallways. This was a psychopath who had been ginned up to hate Christians so much, and right-wingers so much, and Trumpists so much, that he found it quite enjoyable to end his life going out in a flurry of bullets and trying to kill as many of your children as possible, Team Red. So, yeah, is that what you see, AP? Another school shooting? Because some other people are throwing out the list here, and they're saying trans. Now, I'm hesitant on the trans thing, and a lot of this is from personal experience. I used to do a show. I co-hosted a radio show with a trans conservative talk show host. Yes, such things exist. In fact, there's a few of them. There's a few people who are just outspoken conservatives. Some of them are more libertarian than conservative, but still well under the umbrella of Team Red. They're not the ones that are shooting up churches, though. It's just the lefty ones that have been ginned up to hate Christianity. So no, I don't even think this is a problem within the trans community. This is a subset maybe of the trans community. They're all lefties. I recognize that. I'm not judging them by the color of their skin or their sundress. I'm judging them by the content of their character. And that's an even more accurate pattern. But we do know that it's anti-Christian. He said so himself. It was written on one of the magazines. And if that's not going to be addressed, then we're not having the real conversation about this, are we? 800-288-9227. This is Daniel in Cleburne. You're on WBAP.
Hi, how you doing, James?
That's a tough day. Not great.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I think we need more teachers armed. I think we need to arm the schools. I mean, we live in a different world now where people like to do these evil things. And I don't know the answer to solve it, but I know that would probably help if you know, arm the schools, arm the teachers. Veterans would probably be happy to help out. Like I said, I don't know the answers, but I think
you're running up against this entire wall of indoctrination where there's just a big chunk of this country, and it's not a majority. It's just a very vocal minority, and they think guns are scary. They think once you've convinced someone guns are the problem, then
they don't need to be teaching. They need to be there, helping to protect the schools. And if they're not capable of doing that, then they don't need to be there.
Well, listen, I think we shouldn't tell teachers you need to be armed. I think we should just lay off. And for teachers who are comfortable doing it, for teachers who are gun enthusiasts or self-defense enthusiasts, allow them to do the societal good that happens when you have more good armed people. And you're absolutely right.
100%.
All of these mass shootings, except for the Aurora, Colorado one, the one that happened at the theater, all of them stop when a good guy with a gun shows up and either they take him out or the shooter takes himself out. The one that happened at the remember when the Batman movie, the guy went in and shot up the place. He ran out of bullets. Everyone ran out of the theater. He didn't even have a bullet to off himself left, so he just waited by his car for the cops to show up. Other than that one, every single one of these ends as soon as the good guy with the gun gets there. So if we're going to live in a world where psychos exist, and that's a given, 2% of us are born psycho, then you're never going to get rid of this. You can only minimize it, and minimizing it is doing just what Daniel said. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, James.
And let's talk about the one of the other angles that pops up every time this happens. Other countries don't have to deal with this. Okay. Let's destroy that myth next on the James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We have Governor Tim Walz giving an update on the shooting. You want to go to this live, just see what he's saying real quick? Let's check in with this. Please don't be political, just be normal. What about a church? Oh, this guy's going to tick you off too. All right. That is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. We can take that down. Yeah, I wasn't expecting too much out of this guy because earlier today he was saying, I don't care about your thoughts and prayers. This was him earlier.
Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
Okay. Yeah, don't want your thoughts and prayers. You know, these people, they say these things and they don't get held to account for it. But that's very clearly an anti-Christian statement. Lefties mock Christians for that. You understand that? They make fun of us for saying thoughts and prayers. We don't need to say thoughts and prayers. We need to do gun control, common sense. Duh. Thoughts and prayers don't do anything. No, you don't believe in prayers. I got it. You hate Jesus. You hate your dad. You don't believe in anything. I got it. But your antipathy goes a little too far because this isn't a school shooting. This is a Christian shooting. There was nothing in his manifesto where he was ranting about the horrors of education. There's nothing that was written on any of his magazines or his guns that was anti-student. There was some anti-God. There was some anti-Christian. There was Kill Trump written on one of his magazines for his guns. But not, boy, the school system, what a joke. Or, I sure hate education. Sure hate schools. No, he wasn't driven by an antipathy toward schools. He was driven by an antipathy toward God and those who follow him. This kid was a demon. You understand? A demon. Someone who goes out and his sole purpose was to inflict as much pain and suffering on the followers of God, on those while they were worshiping God. He got off on that. This is not a school shooting. This is a Christian shooting. And Christians, you don't need to just lay down. I know Jesus said turn the other cheek, but you don't have to just let gunmen turn you into Swiss cheese in order to prove you're not a bad person. You don't have to stand up for this. You should say something about it. You should shout these people down. You should be more upset about this than the damn Cracker Barrel logo, which I was upset about the Cracker Barrel logo too. I get you. But that pales in comparison to how important this is. Are you just going to, is that what we're going to do? We're just going to lay back and let people shoot at us and not let anyone speak out or even identify the fact that we have a target on our back based on our religion? I thought these people were against such bigotry. Nope, not when it's against you. 800-288-9227. If you want to push back on that any. I'm not sure everyone agrees with me, but that's my initial reaction to this one. Earlier, you had Minnesota Governor Tim Walz saying he was briefed on the shooting right after it happened. And he at least, I'll give him credit. He said, I'm praying for our kids and teachers whose first week of school was marred by this horrific act of violence. Thank you. I don't have audio of that. He posted it on X, what we used to call Twitter. So it happened again. Donald Trump's been briefed on the situation. White House said they're monitoring the situation. I don't know if we're going to get a statement from President Trump on this. And I don't know if we should. You know, I think part of the reason why we do so poorly in the gun debate, in the court of public opinion, is because the narrative is so hyper-focused. Because I don't want to minimize this, but these two kids that died, super important to those families. But the two kids that died here this week, super important to their families as well. Doesn't get national attention, though. Can we speculate why? I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with, well, if we reported on all deaths equally, people would come to very different conclusions about what the problem and the origin of our problem is when it comes to violence in America. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. If Donald Trump does give a statement on it, we'll obviously break into that. I'm going to go back to monitoring some of these officials in this press conference during the news. I'll let you know if they say anything important coming up next. But we're also going to get into a couple other Trump-related topics today. And I'll keep an eye on this for the rest of the show. But 2 children dead, 17 injured, and a Minneapolis mass shooting at a Catholic school. More details next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. And the Minneapolis shooting's our top story right now. I was monitoring the press conference on the break there, and when who is this guy? Is this Brian O'Hara again? Yeah. So the police chief gets up there, and Tim Walz gives a statement. The mayor gives a statement. O'Hara gives a statement. And that's all worthless. The only good part comes from the questions. Sorry, that's just the way it is. I don't know these guys. I'm not being critical of them as human beings. But then in the questions, it comes up. You know, you kind of have to dance around this because no one wants to seem like a bad guy. And the people who are asking the questions in the media, you know, some of them are political fellow travelers with these people. And so they're kind of asking around it. No one came out and said, hey, is this guy a trans? They said, hey, didn't this guy have a different name?
Yep. So the question was about the suspect, and he had a name change at some point in the past. I cannot confirm that other than confirming the identity, the name that I gave you, the age. That is the suspect. That's the person that we believe has caused this.
Chief, you mentioned these videos posted on YouTube, seemingly scheduled to be posted right after the shooting. Is there anything that the suspect posted days prior, months prior, that could shed any light on your mindset?
Yep.
Here.
So the question
Did you hear his question? Let's see if he rephrases it correctly.
was, we mentioned that the YouTube videos were scheduled to be posted. Is there anything else in social media that may shed some light into this?
On his motive.
We do not have information on that at this time that I'm able to share. However, our investigators and our law enforcement partners are definitely looking at that.
Yeah. We don't have anything that we're able to share. Yeah, we've got the manifesto, and we've gone through the YouTube videos. YouTube took his channel down, but I saw it this morning. Hey, I've got one. How do I, some rando, just working out of a home studio in the middle of nowhere, Texas, have more info than the police chief that's on the block where this happened? It can't be possible.
I'm the woker, baby. Why so curious? Where's your God now?
Where's your effing God now? Yeah, I don't know what could be his motivation. Could be anything. We may never know. We've got 3 more detectives working on the case. They got us working in shifts. Tanya Sherman, you're on WBAP.
Hey, you know, I blame most all this crap on the media. They never, ever, the main media, you never hear anything about most things that go on in the blue cities and against Christians and against MAGA. These people are psychotic. And I will tell you, where is the mother? Why did she not see something going on here and say something? I'm not going to blame the guns because there are so many responsible people with guns. Me, myself, also. But I will tell you, this whole media needs to be shut down if they're not going to speak the truth, if they're not going to speak what's going on in the news with regular society or just everyone. They're so biased and so I'm just so angry with them. They should just be shut down.
Well,
if they
listen.
can't speak the truth.
We can do it if we really stood up and made a fuss here. Cracker Barrel changed their logo after 48 hours of griping. The problem is most of us are freaking doormats when it comes to Christianity.
Well, no. I will tell you, and there are so many people. You know, when I say things online or on Facebook or what, we get shut down. My husband and I, we get taken off. Things get taken off all the time. You know, and I'd like to get on a podium somewhere and say something, but I don't have a podium, and I can't get on a podium. But I'm telling you, this media is out of control. They're out of control. They should be shut down.
Well, let me spell out why you're feeling this a little better. If you go to CNN.com or MSNBC.com right now and you pull up their top story on this and you do a word search for trans, it's not in either one of their articles. So they will obfuscate and lie by omission on the story of dead children, and there's still 7 children with critical injuries fighting for their lives right now. It is dead children are less important to them than protecting their sacrosanct political narrative, and that is sick. When
It is sick.
when your politics are more important than dead children, you need to really do some examination.
Or this DEI crap. They don't want to name a transgender person. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we offend the 1% in this gosh darn nation? Holy cow. Did we offend you? Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Well, and
That's
just
what they should say.
just for a reminder, Tanya, this is how it's reported when a white cop kills a black man. Now, whether he says a racial slur or not, just the fact that they exist.
Images now circulating on social media of a black man dying after being shot by a white police officer.
The Justice Department is investigating the death of Alton Sterling, a black man shot to death by a white police officer outside a convenience store.
In the past 48 hours, 2 more American cities have been convulsed by the fatal shootings of African American men by white police officers.
Yeah, and if they're not willing to have the full conversation, then all these people that are like, we need to have a conversation about guns. No, you're not ready to have a conversation. You're not. You're not.
I grew up in L.A., and I lived right in the same area where, what's his name?
Rodney King.
Rodney King was killed, and the riots were happening. I lived right there. Right there. Okay, I used to go to the place right there in the same place where he died. And it's bullcrap because everything is racial. When it comes to that, they will play the race card like nobody's business. Oh, but don't worry about other innocent people and all the things that are being destroyed because of these stupid idiots pulling the race card on TV or on the news all the time.
Just quick correction there, Tanya. Rodney King didn't die at the hands of the Los Angeles police. He lived to smoke crack another day. 800-288-9227. If you have any comments following up with Tanya, I loved her vigor. What you got for me? Coming up next, Jeremy Rosenthal, the legal analyst of The James Show. I'm going to ask him about this new Trump order to criminalize flag burning. Is that constitutional? That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We will continue coverage of the Minneapolis school shooting right after my next guest, Jeremy Rosenthal. Finally, something fun for this show. Always like your segments. Thanks for coming back on the James Show, Jeremy. On a day like today, when I'm talking about dead kids, you are a ray of sunshine, sir. You're like a fresh bowl of Fruit Loops in the morning. Yeah, so I need your help on this one. Donald Trump wants to outlaw flag burning. The Supreme Court, I think most people recognize that there may be some constitutional issues concerning free speech with that. So even if I dig into it and read the executive order, some of this stuff doesn't, it flies over my head. So is there any way this could be constitutional? What's he trying to do here? Dang. Okay. Well, is he trying some other angle? Because I know he's not going to just write on a piece of paper, it's illegal to burn an American flag. Because there's going to be all kinds of obvious exceptions to that. Like when a flag is retired from service, isn't it burned as part of the, honorable procedure or proper protocol or whatever? But also, I imagine Donald Trump's not worried if you have like an American flag sticker and you burn it in your own backyard away from the prying eyes of the general public. But is there some way he could sort of wrap this into like maybe if the flag is burnt and incites a riot, that could retroactively be looked at and said to be illegal? Well, that's my no, that's my next question. Even if he does find a way that's constitutional, shouldn't it go through Congress first? You reading my notes? All right, we're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. Now, I think he does have the right and doesn't even have to go through Congress if he wants to like revoke visas or green cards or residence permits or for people who are foreigners and not citizens to use that against them in deciding whether or not they're allowed to stay. Is that legal? All right. Well, good chat, Jeremy Rosenthal. Do you think a year from now flag burning will still be legal, or will there be some changes to it? Did you say a nullity? You got 30 seconds. Yeah. All right. Well, good chat. I learned a little bit today. Thank you, Jeremy Rosenthal. You can find him at texasdefensefirm.com. Thank you, sir. All right, coming up, we have some callers who want to talk about the Minneapolis shooting situation. I have a couple of new details, and we'll review what we've already learned about it coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I have some positive news out of the Minneapolis school shooting situation. 2 children dead. We have 17 more people in the hospital. 14 of them are children. Of the people who were listed as critically injured, life-threatening injuries, Mike Traina was passing along right before the break that all of them are expected to survive. All right, finally some good news here. But I'm not too happy with the reporting on it thus far, and I don't think I'm going to feel much better after the day's over when I continue to watch the reporting after the James Show, because this is being billed as just another school shooting. No, this is another anti-Christian attack. We saw the guy's manifesto. We saw what he wrote on his guns and on his magazines. He wasn't driven by an antipathy toward classrooms or students or education. He hates God. He hates Christians. He wanted to kill Trump. Kill Trump was written on one of the guns and on one of the magazines. So not exactly another act of MAGA violence, which is weird because that's what you were told to expect. Right, Jasmine Crockett?
He said that we've got these cities and these towns that are being overrun by gangs and the crime out of control. I absolutely agree with that. And guess what? It's the MAGA gang. It is the white supremacists that have decided to descend upon places such as Springfield, Ohio. So I agree with him. I just disagree with who the problems are. The problems are him and his minions. The problems aren't the people that have come to make our economy stronger, the people that have actually been able to help to continue to make sure that we got out of the big hole that he put us in after COVID-19 with his ineptness. Like, yeah, I agree that there are problems in our communities, but usually it's some white supremacists on the other side.
Well, he was white. I'll give her that. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Elizabeth in Electra. You're on WBAP.
Hi. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things about this issue. One, I really think that every American has the right to bear arms, and they should always be able to defend themselves and to be able to carry. That's one. Two, I think President Trump should institute like some sort of national internal security like Israel, where there's like maybe a mandation, or I don't know if the Constitution suffices for that, but I know over there every Israeli carries that is old enough to, and I think that's what needs to be done. I'm Christian, and there's people that I know of that have gone through such events before, and it's tore me up. It still bothers me, and God saved me and my kids from that sort of thing.
Yikes.
I can't explain this. I don't want to explain it. I don't want to give details. But I will tell you one thing, that I think that's what needs to be done. Everybody needs to be able to defend themselves.
So this is something that comes up every once in a while where I get the thrust behind you wish everyone would care, you wish everyone would be armed. I don't go that far. I think everyone who is comfortable arming themselves should definitely arm themselves and carry, and they should be allowed to. I think we should encourage it more. But there is an interesting part of the Sikh religion. They have a kirpan, and a kirpan is just a little dagger that every grown man, if you're a Sikh, has to wear. You are required to be armed at all times. Now, I don't know a whole bunch about the Sikh religion, except just a very shallow view of it. But I like that part. There's something to be said about that. Now, today, do they all carry a dagger or, a little sword? Yeah, and I've actually met Sikhs and asked to see it, and it's dull. The one that I saw, the one that I was comfortable enough asking a guy, dude, you're one of those guys that carry a blade? Can I see it? Sure. So, okay. There's something to be said about that. And other cultures have agreed with you at that point. And it used to be, it feels like in America, when you see the spaghetti westerns, it was quite a normal thing to see most men not only armed, but open carrying. The John Wayne movies and the old spaghetti westerns, there wasn't nearly as much violence and crime and people weren't so flippant about using their guns as depicted in Tombstone. But it wasn't looked at like, oh, guns are scary, or that guy has a gun. What's wrong with him? And I see people freak out online. They're like, I saw a guy with a gun on a holster in a Walmart, and I just don't see any reason for a guy to need a gun in Walmart. This is just crazy. I'm sick of this place. I got to move. I hate Texas. No, that's the wrong attitude. That is the wrong attitude. The only thing that stops a bad man who's intent on committing violence is a good man who's even better at committing violence. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More reaction to the Minneapolis school shooting, and we're going to dig into the audio vaults on what was predicted a few months ago. White rural rage. You'll hear that next on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest, Ethan Watson from the Young Voices. Welcome to the James Show, Ethan. All right, a couple of interesting national political stories here. The Department of Justice doing these interviews with Ghislaine Maxwell. There's no other reason for her to cooperate unless she's getting some kind of deal. Do we know if they're working on a deal to commute her sentence or get her out of prison? Right. So it sounds like if she wants to get out, she's going to have to name some names. Do you think that's going to happen? It's not believable because she was an active participant in some of the. Well, if you believe Virginia Guffrey's book, where she said that Ghislaine was the one who recruited her while she was underage and participated in some adult activities while she was underage. It sounds like she's just saying that to exonerate herself. Well, one thing I am learning is she really does know a bunch of what we would consider the elite. We don't have a caste system in America, but they were like, "Have you met Elon Musk?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I've met him." And they're like, "Well, have you met Andrew Cuomo?" "Oh yeah, and his brother, the news guy, and he on TV." "Yeah, Chris Cuomo." You don't remember meeting an anchor from CNN at the time, and so you just go down the list. She really is super connected. So we're talking with Ethan Watson from Young Voices. Why don't some of the other victims speak up and start naming names? Boo. All right. I don't like the sound of that, but it's probable. Possible, maybe not probable, but definitely possible. Thank you very much. This is Ethan Watson from Young Voices. Appreciate you on the James Show, sir. All right, you can celebrate the 39th annual Grape Fest. That's a Texas wine experience. Where else? In Grapevine. It's happening September 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. It's a festival featuring Texas and international wines, a midway, carnival rides, artisans, festival food, live music on 4 stages. If you want to win a pair of tickets from us, you can text the word Grape Fest. I know it sounds like 2 words, but just mush them together. Grape Fest to 800-288-9227. Grape Fest to 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear the flashback where you were warned about white rural rage on MSNBC. That's coming up on The James Show. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. I want to add a little context to the top story of the day. That's the shooting that happened in Minneapolis at the Catholic Mass. And the fact that here's another instance where we need to go back and check the record. We need to go back because so much of what passes for news these days isn't news at all. You know, they tell you, well, this hurricane season is going to be the biggest hurricane season. That's not news. Your predictions about the future are not what news is. Your description and reporting on things that have already happened in the past is news. So real news is going back and looking at the predictions that were previously made, not making new ones now and just assuming, well, that's news. That's how it's going to go. Because right now is when you should be doing stories about, hurricane season. They told you at the beginning of hurricane season, scientists predict this is going to be above average hurricane season. It's going to be terrible. All right, we're halfway through it now. How's it going? Oh, we're not getting any reports on that? It must be going really good then. Your predictions must be wrong, because if your predictions were right, we'd be hearing about it. So it's the same thing. This is why Rush repeated this over and over. The drive-by media. This is how they lie to you. This is how they craft these narratives. And this isn't for nothing. These anti-MAGA narratives, these anti-Christian narratives, these anti-white people narratives, these anti-American narratives are focusing these psychopaths on killing people like you and me. It is having negative results in the real world. It actually is inciting violence. So I'm going to go back to last spring when the election cycle was in full swing, and one of the things that they were trying to convince people to vote against Donald Trump for, not necessarily vote for Biden or Kamala, it was still Biden at this point, but you need to vote against Trump because why? Well, because if he wins again, then all these crazy white rural people are going to be emboldened to be violent and act out on their bigotry and harm people based on the color of their skin or their sexual orientation or their religion or because they're immigrants or whatever the sensational lie was, the slander was. And just to give you a taste, so you know I'm not making this up, MSNBC is gleefully spending 2 segments with a couple of goobers who wrote a book called White Rural Rage, as if them just predicting this was going to be true. So 18 months ago.
Joining us now, Professor of Political Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? You would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of negative factors about this demographic.
Yeah, so they went through the whole checklist there. Trump voters, white rural people, are being portrayed in the media as prone to violence, the worst people ever. You're racist, you're white supremacist, you hate women, you hate gay people, you hate immigrants. He went through the whole checklist there, didn't he? And so, you know that's not true. I know that's not true. Hell, I'm a white rural person. It's the safest place to be in America. I know that's not true, but there are a lot of people who live in the bubble. There are a lot of people who listen to MSNBC and actually believe it. And it's scaring the hell out of them. I had the evidence right after the election. There were people that got on their phones, cried into it, talking about how scared they are. about violence from you, from MAGA. They're going to be so emboldened that MAGA is going to be unsafe to be around.
I want to thank all you people out there for voting this individual in. Thanks so much, because guess what? I live in a rural community, and now I know I can't simply leave my house. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to be underground. You guys won't hear from me again. Bye, guys.
See, so MSNBC is scaring these people into being scared of going outside of their house. They believe it. They think they really are in danger hanging out against white rural MAGA voters, the safest demographic in the country. And so what has happened since then? What has happened since the White Rural Rage segment 18 months ago? What has happened since these viral videos of people admitting that they're scared to go outside? They're scared of rural Texas.
A little bit of a rant here, because you know what sucks? It was recently Mother's Day. And my mother is one of the sweetest, kindest, and most supportive and accepting people I've ever met and I've ever known. And I love her greatly. As I've become an adult, she and I have become closer than ever because of some shared experiences in life. But I live in Texas. Now, I live in a very liberal and accepting part of Texas, and I am very lucky to do so. Where I grew up, where my mom lives, is nothing like that.
Yeah, so he's scared to go out into rural Texas because he thinks what? There's going to be anti-trans violence or anti-gay violence or anti-liberal or women or whatever violence against minorities, violence against immigrants. Really? So what has happened since then? What's happened since MSNBC did that segment and they came out with that book, White Rural Rage? Well, we had the Colorado Springs shooter who was non-binary. We had another mass shooter in Denver who was trans, and a mass shooter in Aberdeen, Washington that was trans. The Nashville Christian School shooter was trans. The Philly shooter was trans. You had the shooter at Joel Osteen's church, which was a bingo card of leftism. It was an illegal immigrant, trans, pro-Palestinian activist. There was the trans kid in St. George, Utah that killed both of his parents and then tried to kill his brother. And now we have the Minneapolis Catholic school shooter. Bro, you are not in danger from white rural MAGA voters. We are in danger from you. And look at all these other big events that have happened, like the Cincinnati brawl or whatever. Was that white rural rage? Do you have any good examples of white rural rage since that book came out? I mean, there's got to be some, but I mean, how overwhelmingly dwarfed is it by all these incidences that go exactly against what you were warning about? Because here's the truth, and they don't want you to know the truth. Trans people, we do not hate you. We don't want you dead. We do not want you genocided. Gay people, we don't hate you. Black people or other people who aren't white, we do not hate you. We don't hate women. We don't hate immigrants. We're not full of rage and hate. We're not violent. In fact, we're pretty loving people. Most of this culture war stuff is just a smokescreen so you won't listen to us on all these other economic policies. You don't want to, if you figured out that we don't hate you, and we want what's best for you. And the way we want to arrange society would be better for everybody, regardless of who you love or what the color of your skin. They don't want you listening to us. They want you scared of us. They want you thinking we're bloodthirsty, Nazi, apartheid-loving, white supremacist, KKK, whatever evil you can come up with, literally Hitler. Because on all the issues, you might find out that we're right. Maybe you would be better off if you paid less in taxes and had a smaller government. Maybe you would be better off if we did allow teachers to be armed. Maybe you would be better off if we implemented so many of these other policies that you don't even want to look at because you couldn't fathom agreeing with literally Hitler. You're going to have to break the cycle. We don't hate you. The violence isn't coming from us. You are not in danger from us. We do not hate you. Why is that so difficult? Coming up next, the Attorney General of the great state of Texas, Ken Paxton, is coming on the James Show to clear up. Are these Democrats that ran from the state legislature, are they going to catch charges or not? Find out next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest, esteemed guest, the Attorney General for the great state of Texas, Ken Paxton's coming back on. Hey, welcome back, Ken. Yeah, what's going on in your world? Because we've just been flooded with the Minneapolis shooting. Is there some headlines I'm missing out of Austin? Thanks, Scott. Okay, so does that mean they could flee again and Beto could fund them? Okay, well, that's disappointing. Next question. The Democrats that ran in the first special session, are they going to catch charges? Right. All right. We're talking with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. What's the update on the 10 Commandments? They were supposed to be put in classrooms, and then a judge stopped it, and then you've put in the guidance that you need to go ahead and put them up. What do you do if you're a school around here? Interesting. Okay. And the other thing I saw that I know very little about this next one, you have appointed a successor, and I don't know, his name's Reitz. And I found Rights. Okay. So now I found this interesting because Ted Cruz, a guy a lot of Texas Republicans hold in high esteem, has endorsed Chip Roy as your replacement. And Chip Roy has left a bad spot in a bunch of people's memory because he supported impeaching Donald Trump after January 6th. So what's going on here? Interesting. Well, I'll have to look more into that. How's the race going for Senate so far? Do you even have to do anything for that? Or are you like in a fundraising position or what? Whoa. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the listeners of WBAP know that, but I can't help you out with all those other stations. You got to get to some of them other audiences. I don't think they know. Attorney General Ken Paxton, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. All right, coming up next. Do you remember when I did the show a couple weeks ago about the Arlington mayor who a viral video had resurfaced of him cussing out a street preacher and making fun of Christians and whatnot? And then he also has some other scandals that are going on with his wages being garnished for back taxes, and Arlington has a big budget shortfall. There's a lot of things going on, and when he was asked about it, he didn't respond in a way that I think you would appreciate. You'll hear that next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. So I did a show. Oh, man, it feels like it was just a couple weeks ago. What day was this? It was a while back. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. But a video had surfaced in a report from Vice News. You remember Vice used to be a thing? Well, they still exist. They're just not as big. And someone noticed that in one of their reports on street preachers, you know, the guys that go out and they yell at the people who are having a good time at festivals and whatnot, there was one guy who was doing this in New Orleans at Decadence. Decadence is a festival that is the gay mecca. It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, gay festival that happens every year. It's usually around Labor Day weekend, and it's in New Orleans. And I lived in New Orleans for a while. It's a known thing. There's a lot of people who, you know, you have friends that want to come visit during Decadence. Oh, what are you doing here? Yeah, you can stay with me. But the strange part about it is, this is from 2018. The guy that's yelling at him sounds like the mayor of Arlington. And so a little bit of digging was done, and my friends at the Dallas Express feel confident enough in the people that they've talked to and their veracity process that they reported that it looks like that is the mayor of Arlington, Mayor Ross. He's saying some not very nice things. Now, listen, there's a lot of people who go to the rodeo who don't ride horses. There's a lot of people who are going to go to the Cowboy games that don't play football. But there's not a lot of people who will travel, 8 hours away to go to Decadence Fest and not be decadent, if you know what I mean. So there's already some suspicions floating around here because he's supposedly a happily married heterosexual fella. What's he doing at Decadence cussing street preachers? Now, if you're straight, why would you be offended by what he's saying? If you're a Christian, why would you be offended by what he's saying? And why would you say the sort of nasty anti-Christian things that you hear in this video?
You do. Not gonna happen, you punk. You don't think it's good, do you? No, it's not the purpose. Have you ever your old lady in the? Who would do that? I'll your old lady. In with them. Watch your language. Hey, shut your ass. Hey, shut your ass, you little piece of. You want to talk? These people are out here having a good time and going. They don't come to your stupid redneck church and talk. You come out here and shut.
Now, what he did isn't illegal. It is a little suspicious. It is a little hateful. It is a little unbecoming for a public official. But a lot of questions were raised about that. Now, if he is a closeted homosexual, does that affect whether or not he should be mayor or his job or his record or how Arlington's doing? No, it's really of minimal import. It's just the whole deception, lying about it thing. Maybe he has a good explanation for that. Maybe he could just stand in front of a microphone and say, yeah, I was going there for something else and I just happened to stop by the Decadence Festival, or I was there visiting my wife's sister married a guy from New Orleans and just went because it was Labor Day, not knowing it was Decadence Festival. He hasn't answered for it. Now, more concerning matters is that he is so behind on his taxes, his wages are being garnished by a pretty big chunk. Arlington's finances are pretty questionable. And he hasn't really talked about any of that. So in steps a hero. This is so great. You guys do not understand the level of bravery it takes to do what Carlos Tercios from the Dallas Express did. He went to the Arlington meeting yesterday. The city council, mayor were there. And when things were adjourned and the mayor was walking off, Carlos goes up to him and starts trying to ask him questions. He finds out he's from Dallas Express. I don't have time for you. I don't want to talk to you. And the coup de grace you're going to hear, the audio is not real great, but Carlos Tercios asked the mayor if he's gay. And you can't see it in his face, but he was walking away when Carlos said that. And he turned on a dime, 180 degrees. And he had a serious look on his face. Like when you thought it was going to be air and a little bit of liquid slips out. You know, when you think you just doing a one cheek sneak and you end up messing your drawers. That's the face he makes in this audio.
Hey, Ron. Oh, search doing the Downs Express. You have a milk?
Not for you.
No? Would you be interested in?
No, I'm not interested. No, thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any comments on?
I don't have any
Israel?
comments, and I'm about to go talk to somebody.
You want to
so why
apologize to
don't
the
you-
family, to Room Israel?
No, I don't want to talk to you.
Are you homosexual?
I think he's done answering questions. He's made it clear. Okay, guys?
Would you like to comment about the video?
I'm
Arlington
done.
City Council
I'm done with you.
member
I'm done
Joey
with
Hogg
you.
said that he should address this to the residents of Arlington.
You know, the regular answer is, are you a homosexual? Should be just, no. Like if someone asked me, I wouldn't turn around and get a weird look on my face. I've been asked that. Are you homosexual? No. And that's it. There's no scandal around it. Why can't you just answer some of these? These are easy questions. Yeah, I got to go talk to somebody. Well, that sounds nice and vague. It sounds like you're just trying to get out of the situation. And look, it doesn't matter to me one whit who this guy is interested in sexually. I mean, I really don't care. The obfuscating is kind of interesting. The viral video is kind of interesting. The hateful speech is kind of interesting. The dodging of the questions makes it even more interesting. Just answer the question and let us move on. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Your thoughts on Mayor Ross coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. You know, I don't really think it's a big deal. I just wish he would address it. There's a lot going on in what is probably the third most important metropolitan area in North Texas, Arlington. You know, they've got all the fun stuff. They've got Six Flags. They've got the Rangers. They've got the Cowboys. They've got Wet and Wild. I know it's called Hurricane Harbor. Don't at me. I'm a child, okay? But why won't he just even answer a few questions? Carlos Tercios is not a bad guy. Carlos Tercios is not a flamethrower. He's not like a me or an Alex Stein or someone who's just trying to troll and go viral. He's a young guy that's just trying to do a little bit of journalism, God forbid. And it's strange as hell how so many people have to be held to account for all these things that they've done or been exposed doing. And why is it so odd to just ask this guy a couple questions? Why can't he just stand there and say, "Are you homosexual?" No. What is going on? And what were you doing at Decadence Fest, Mayor Ross? This is Carl and Justin. If you want to be after Carl, 800-288-9227. Hey, Carl, you're on WBAP.
Hey, hello. My comment on Mayor Ross is it's a bad look for the city of Arlington. And, you know, there's an old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I mean? If he's a top-ranking official in Arlington and he acts like that, all the well knowing somebody's probably recording it. I mean, my God, how's he going to act whenever nobody is recording?
You know, that's a good point. I'm not sure he knew someone was recording there because he wasn't recording it. And I don't think the street preachers were recording it. Somehow Vice was. But the video goes back to 2018. And I don't think he was mayor in 20. I mean, I'm pretty sure, but not 100% on that. So I don't think he thought he was ever going to be in a public enough position that this would even matter if anyone even did see it. Because look, if you're just some like accountant who works at a tax office and you cuss a street preacher, no one's going to care, and you're not going to be made to held to account for it in the media because you're not a public official. But I'm not sure if this guy knew that this was in his future. Why can't he answer? Why can't he just answer a few questions from Carlos?
You know, like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. And it's the dodge that makes me suspicious, more so than the actual content of the video, more so than what's going on with his taxes. And, you know, this isn't a deal breaker. If you get behind on your taxes, you can still be a politician. You know, you can be like the mayor of New Orleans right now. She was behind on her taxes like by $100,000. And she was getting her paycheck garnished, and she hadn't filed taxes but like once in the last 11 years, and that's when she was running for mayor. And so it's not a deal breaker. You get behind on your taxes. A lot of people do. A lot of well-intended people do. A lot of, you know, law-abiding citizens get behind on their taxes. It's not necessarily unless you're doing something shady to get behind on your taxes, unless you're, you know, evading taxes, unless you're are you doing something illegal? Are you doing something unethical? Are you doing something the general public would frown on? Because that's really the only explanation on why a public official like that wouldn't answer the questions. He's doing something. The answer is something you wouldn't like. The answer is something that wouldn't help him out career-wise or personal-wise. And look, I'm not trying to like wreck the guy's marriage. If he's, you know, in the closet and he just can get away at a couple festivals and sort of scratch that itch to stretch a metaphor there, you know, hey, how's he doing as mayor? I don't think he should lose his job. Maybe he has a deal going with his wife. Maybe there's not even any deception or you know, any hiding or anything really unethical there. If his wife agrees to it, and then that's just something that, you know, consenting adults have arranged for themselves, whoop-de-doo. He's not even a bad guy in my book. Why can't you just answer the questions? Yeah. It's the dodge, isn't it? It's the dodge that makes you suspicious. You know? And if it's an easy answer, I feel like he would have already said it. But like if your spouse came home, if your husband or wife came home 3 a.m, where were you? I'm not answering any questions now. Well, now you're suspicious. Look, if Miss Parker's come home at 3 a.m. before, I mean, not often, but Miss Parker. Known the woman for 25, almost 26 years. How old? I don't know, 20 something, 18 years. Yeah, she's coming home at 3 a.m. Whoop-de-doo. She's a grown-up. That happens sometimes. You go out with friends, and then y'all go back to, I don't know, Rachel's house, and you fell asleep on the couch watching a movie, and then your phone woke you up, and you came home. Whoop-de-doo. Answer the question. No big deal. I mean, it could have been something bad. You could have been cheating on me. She could have been running an illegal dogfighting ring or something, right? But if you answer the question, then we can just say, okay, checkbox, move on. He's not answering. Now I'm suspicious. Mayor Ross, just call Carlos up, go on the record, answer a handful of what I think are easy questions. Are you gay? What you doing at Decadence? Do you really think preachers and Christianity is some rural redneck thing that's just full of hatred and divisiveness? Explain your conversation. Explain how you got in your tax situation. I'll listen. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show today. When you get out of here, if you need more James Show action, go check out the podcast, WBAP.com, WBAP app, or any of these other thousands of places where you're listening to podcasts. We have some fun stuff on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all the social medias as well. And if you're a Peter Frampton fan, he is coming to Grand Prairie October 21st. He's going to be at the Texas Trust CU Theater. And one of rock's most iconic guitarists. He's going to be live. Tickets on sale now. Axis.com, AXS.com, presented by AEG. If you want to try and win some tickets from us, text the word Peter to 800-288-9227. Peter to 800-288-9227. And I hope someone listening to the James Show gets to win the tickets. All right, that's going to do it for my time. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.